Hello, Jeremy Geckner here with the Front Row Network on NPR Illinois, and I am psyched to be talking today to Amit Bhalla and Lucas Jensen about their new show on Apple TV Plus, Hello Tomorrow. Amit, Lucas, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I got a lot of questions in a short amount of time because I'm really psyched about this show.
Go for it.
What's up, Jeremy? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. We're here.
I know, right? Okay. Tell me, guys, how did you come up with the concept for the show? This is so freaking original, and I'm absolutely in love with it. Where did this idea come from?
Well, we've been long time fascinated with salesmen in their dreaming and in their tragedy represent a kind of something deep in the grain of the American experience for us. And we had been thinking about, Arthur Miller, thinking about the Maysles brothers' brilliant documentary Salesmen. And we hit upon with our good friend and who's an executive producer on the show, Ryan Khalil. He found these vintage 1950s training videos for like car salesmen. And in it, you would see these hokey reenactments where the young salesman says to his boss, "Oh gosh, you're telling me that if I get Mrs. Bartlestein in the sport coupe that she's always dreamed of, that maybe, one day maybe I can make assistant manager just like you." Well, that's right, kid, and even more than that. It was riveting to us because it's like the American dream distilled into this pure essence, and it was so naive and innocent and hopeful, and it feels like it could motivate a whole world of activity, but it was delusional because I don't think he's ever make an assistant manager. And if he does, I don't know what's going to be lost along the way. And so the idea of a story that took place in the lurch between the sales pitch, between the optimism that impels us and that creates the American dream and all its attendant activities, between the lurch between that and the realities, the inevitable realities in which we all live, is what got us going.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Amy, this is kind of set in like this Elseworld 1950s thing. Like, was it always the idea to do like a retro futurist like setting for this, or did that kind of evolve out of time?
Yeah, it was. And that also came from Ryan a bunch and from us. And like we started digging into the corporate advertisements from the 30s World Fair, the 60s, like what the Norman Bell Gettys, these designers that were designing this perfect future for America that had white picket fences and every gadget in your kitchen, so you never had to do any work, and it was a world, it's an aesthetic built out of advertising. And we were like, okay, but in all those worlds, the bots are really shiny and everything works. But I bet you if we really had it, the bot would spill some motor oil in your coffee, and the cleans all bot would leave a piece of paper behind, or whatever. Like that it wouldn't work, and there'd be rust on the hover car, and what would it feel like to live in that world? And then also, most importantly, to treat it as humdrum, to treat it as background. So nobody's saying, "Oh my God, there's a hover car," because that's not what they would do. It would just become another car. And in many ways, that becomes to the deep themes and hopes of the show, which is like, it doesn't, that's not, those gadgets aren't going to save us from our human realities that our lost loves and our addictions and the complexities that form us. It doesn't matter if there's a robot that can take out the trash.
Yeah, absolutely. You're talking spilling motor oil, not giving too much away, or running into people. That's, in the first episode.
Yeah, of course.
But, you did talk about how like that is the thing that was so stark to me, is just like everybody's just so normal around all of this like technology that even today, even though it looks kind of retro, like, we still have some of this, but like still not all of it. Like, and so what was ringing in my mind there is just like how much of this on the set is actually practical effects versus CGI. Obviously we can't fly or anything, but what are they interacting with?
No, we all agreed, and with our director Jonathan Entwistle from the jump and our production designer Maya Siegel, that we should build everything. We should
Yeah.
make it all real, and that will give the actual things a sense of grit and of time and of reality, and it also give the actors a world to play in, because the truth of the show is you have a robot shaking a martini in the background who is actually a real hunk of metal being puppeteered by a bunch of guys and girls in green suits. And then in the foreground, you've got these phenomenal actors like Billy Crudup playing a heartbreaking scene, a staggering human scene full of pathos and emotion. And we wanted to make sure we could do both, that you could have a reality that was both fantastical and beyond our wildest dreams, and lived in and human and played at that scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned the Billy Crudup, and just the entire cast here is just really amazing. You're right. They're just not at all like thrown by any of the technology or anything like that. It is a straight up like Glengarry drama just in the midst of like all of this like crazy technology. When you guys were writing this, like, did you have these actors in mind? Like, cause Billy Crudup just like fits like a glove to like Jack's personality as far as I'm concerned.
When we were writing, we didn't have any actors in mind, and there was nobody on the horizon. We were just two guys writing a script, very much so. And then we were lucky enough to encounter Billy. Obviously, he's the first person cast, and when we met him, he said, you know, put me in, coach. And we said, wait a second, aren't we trying to sell you here to be in our show? And it's a profound experience to have an actor of that talent embody a role like Jack. Like there's no way to describe how beautiful he is and what he was able to do to the role. Now, on top of that, we got all these other people who blew our minds also, right? Like Hanifa, amazing Shirley. How are you gonna, there's no Shirley without her. Duchesne is coming with this singular Herb that we never even imagined Herb could have these like layers and this weirdness. And Hank is bringing like heartbreak, to this role that maybe everybody wanted to hate because he's a gambler, he's always doing bad stuff. But, you love him because he's a romantic and you can feel what's going on in him. And it's, Allison Pill, Matt, I don't want to keep going, but they all blew us away and impressed us. And obviously you just feel so lucky. Nick, obviously incredible, and like going toe to toe to Billy in those scenes.
Yeah.
Next level, these guys. The other thing I will say that's important is Billy came with real commitment and game. Like he was ready. He said, he gives it his all. And what that does is everybody else suddenly says, oh shit, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We're giving it our all. We're gonna rehearse on the weekends. We're gonna find our way into all of these scenes, and we're not just phoning it in. We're not whatever. So it lifted, much like Jack is able to lift everybody up. Billy was able to lift all of us up, including the writer. When you have somebody like Billy, you're writing the back half of the season. You're, oh man. Let's get them to do it. Let's get them do it. Triple Lutz here and see what happens, and you landed them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you established the characters so very well. And the last thing I wanted to ask you about is just that opening scene, because you've got like the Hopper Nighthawks kind of setting that opens the entire show. Exactly. But then like this scene, it literally could be straight out of like, you're right, like a Mamet play or an Arthur, a Miller play. Like talk to me just real briefly here, how did you was it always your intention to just start with this straight up drama that just like distills everything out right there perfectly? Like now we've got you hooked.
The thing about that first scene, and the first time we met with Billy, he said to us, and we knew this was going to be fun. He said, oh, I get it. This guy isn't a salesman. He's a priest.
Yes.
We're like, yes, that's it. That's Jack. He is a creature of such belief and such hope. And so when we talked about that first scene, now obviously you have two complete heavy hitters in Billy and then Michael Harney opposite him. Michael Harney, whose audition tape made me cry 3 different times. and who was just the dearest soul. And what we said with Billy is like, you're going to sit down next to this guy at the bar, and yeah, you're explicitly you're trying to sell him a house on the moon, but what you're doing is you're saving his life.
Yeah.
And Billy's like, yeah, I can play that, because that is Jack's genius. Jack's genius is not, I know the slick stuff I can say to make you buy my thing. Jack's genius is, I can see in your soul. I know your pain. I know what you need, and I want to help you. I want to help you feel just a little better for as long as I can, even if it's just for tomorrow. Come with me. And he's a virtuoso at it. And in the hands of Billy, you believe that he's pulling that guy back from the brink. And if he can do that with a dream, then what else? And the rest of the season is the what else.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that scene is very deep in our hearts, and we've been, writing and rewriting for years and hundreds of times until we were able to find let it sit there. But yeah, it means so much that you can recognize that it was, we felt very strongly that the show needed to start with a massive swing. It told the audience, this is the kind of show you're about to get into. You're going to have to pay attention a little bit more. You're going to see that it might be a little more typical, or you're going to feel many different things along the course of that scene. But it also was to us, there's a lot in the world, and it's a really complicated premise. And this was a really beautiful way to get everybody in there together, and say, okay, we're selling stuff on the moon,
Yeah,
there's a bot that, delivers beer and has witty lines.
The bot's pouring you drinks, but the stakes are life and death.
Yeah.
It absolutely comes through, guys. This show is fantastic. I cannot wait for the public to see it. I think you got a hit on your hands here. So thank you very much.
Oh, man.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching and getting in. This means the world.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time today.
Okay,
Yeah,
bye.
too.
I think.